All right, folks. Today we are going to look at the marketing environment. This deals with mostly external forces. So, when we talked about our SWOT analysis, remember I said we had external and internal forces that um, really influence the way that we looked at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Well, here, when we talk about opportunities and threats, they're usually external factors. So, demographics, different markets, economic factors, competitive factors, legal and political factors, social factors. So, is the public opinion changing about something that's affecting my business or my product? Um, these are all things that are really hard to control from a business standpoint. So, for example, a builder, somebody who's building a home, if lumber prices are high, which they are at the moment, that affects their pricing, that affects how they do business, that affects the supply chain. But they're all external factors, and they're all different. It's affecting all these different pieces of their business. And so, the marketing mix, as we've discussed, is the product, place, promotion, and price. And that is under the control of, when we say the firm, or we're talking about the business, so that's under the control of the business, the firm. And so it's designed to appeal to a specific group of buyers, and these are known as the target market. So, how do we work within all of these different factors and all of these different influences? You find a target market that helps you have a mutual exchange. Remember, we talked about this exchange that happens in marketing. You have to have two parties, they have to be willing to work with one another, and they have to have some sort of mutually satisfying situation. So you have something that I want, and I have something I will give for it. Usually it's the exchange of money. So, excuse me, we like to talk about doing marketing research as well. Doing marketing research helps the company track the changes that are happening in the environment. This may be in regards to legal, new regulations in a certain industry. This may be about like technology changing, the opinion of the customers, or what they want or what they need. And so it's really, really important to understand all of these different things and understanding the environment that they work within. So let's talk about social factors first. We're going to kind of break down each one of these. These are difficult barriers or variables that are hard to work within, because people and the way that they feel about things, they change how they feel all the time and where they want to put their influence. And so, the price that someone pays for a product, the politics, you've seen that in the last few years when someone really cares about the politics of a business and who they stand for and what they mean. A lot of people now you'll see like on different websites, like I think Amazon has it, Etsy has it, different companies will highlight businesses owned by diverse people. So they'll say Black owned businesses, and they'll feature these businesses. And so people have really gotten into and wanting to support diverse business owners, which is a great thing. And so we talk about that and we say, okay, these are influences that have changed. As a year ago, 2 years ago, people might have cared about it, but not as much as they do now because of this social shift that has taken place. And so this really affects the way that a business conducts itself. So, America's core values shift and they change, and people's lifestyles change, and the way that they look at things change all the time. And so, when we talk about component lifestyles, that is the practice of choosing goods and services to meet one's diverse needs and interests rather than conforming to a traditional lifestyle. So, kind of that example I just gave. We also talk a lot about demographics. um some of the, like on your exam, you'll be asked to look at different demographics and how they engage in marketing in a different way. So what are the characteristics of a baby boomer, what are the characteristics of a millennial, all these different things. But this is their demographics are is how somebody, what their age is, what their race is, where they live, all of these different things combined, and how that makes up who they are. And so that changes who this person is, and their demographics influence their consumer buying behavior. And it's really, really useful when you start to look at like what we call segmented target markets, when we look at only targeting females. only targeting males of a certain age, only targeting somebody who maybe lives in a certain area. And so demographics are super important. You can look through this in terms of the different age groups. Your book is going to talk a lot about this as well. So I'm not going to read this to you. These are things that you probably already know as well. But just make a note that on your exam, you will be asked to talk about different generations or different demographic factors. And you'll be asked to describe a little bit about them and answer some questions about that. So I think generations are super interesting. I would talk about it all day if I could, but I don't have time to do that. So I just wanted to kind of show you the highlights today through here. We talk about ethnic markets, so I kind of touched on that a little bit, but the demographic profile of our country is changing. We see a lot of marketing that takes place to Hispanic Americans. This group is a group that, like Kohl's, the store Kohl's, the department store, they look to target Hispanic Americans because of their cultural values. They tend, Hispanic Americans tend to, and I'm generalizing here, I'm not stereotyping, but for the sake of teaching you, this is just kind of a generalization, but culturally, Hispanic Americans will, they're very familial. They often live and work together. They do lots of things as families, and that includes shopping. And so Kohl's sees themselves as positioned very well to appeal to that demographic group, because of that ethnic group, because they embrace their culture. They understand how they shop together. They offer lots of different things in one store. And so that is something that they will openly say is a target market that they try to reach, and they try to provide value to that group. When we say target market, we're not necessarily we're not talking about like preying on a certain group of people or trying to get a certain group of people to like fall for a marketing ploy. But remember, we're talking about adding value. Marketing is all about adding value and allowing people to partake in something that they see as valuable. So if I like to shop with my family, which I do, we shop at Kohl's often because everybody can get something they need at one time. You can get things for the home, you can get shoes, you can get clothes for the whole family. There's jewelry, there's all different types of items. And so for me, that provides value. And so they try to look at these things and they say, okay, is there an ethnic market that I can see as something growing? And this talks about African Americans, it talks about Asian Americans. They have different cultural values and they have different things that they see as beneficial to them. And that's why a lot of times you'll hear about target marketing, because these companies like to break their marketing tactics into these groups. They like to say, okay, well, here you see Asian Americans they say they're younger, they're better educated, they have higher incomes in general. They hold on to their culture. Culture is very important to them. So if we know that about a group that we are trying to reach and to provide value to a certain group, then guess what? We can target this group and they can be one of the people that we look at. If you'll cast your mind back to the marketing plan, the marketing plan had a huge section for target market, because remember I said that's kind of the golden rule of marketing and of communications is, who is your audience? Who are we speaking to? Well, if I know these things right here that are statistically proven to be something that Asian Americans have or value, then I can then say, okay, I understand this group of people and I can provide value to them in a certain way. So this can happen with economics. This can happen with just demographics in general. I'll go back up here real quick and I'll explain, let's see, what do I want to do? Not millennials. Let's do Gen Z. Most of you are in Gen Z. So if I'm going to segment my market, and I'm going to say, okay, who am I trying to reach with my product? And I'm selling a product that's really beneficial to college students, like a laptop computer that has a long battery life, let's say. If I know about all of these factors, about Generation Z, then I can speak to them. I can say the messages would sound different. Remember, I said the way that I speak to my grandmother is different than the way that I speak to you all, because you all understand pop culture. You understand how your phones work. You have Snapchat, you have TikTok, you have Instagram, you have all these things that expose you to other parts of the world that my 85-year-old grandmother does not. And so it's really important that I understand how to tailor my message and understand these demographic factors, whether that be ethnic, whether that be age, whether that be geography, so that I can speak to that group in a meaningful way so that they not only see value in what I'm offering, let's say I'm selling a product to one of these groups, but they also understand and connect with me and they want to um, be part of what I have to offer and what products I have to offer. There's obviously economic factors that take place. So when people were at home last year due to COVID, there were concerns about people not spending money because they were worried about what was going to happen. So then the stimulus checks came to lots of people. Well, guess what? Then businesses started to see an uptick in sales. So those are all external factors that had nothing to do with what the business did, but that is what this marketing environment has to do with, are these external factors. We talk about purchasing power, and you'll hear that term on and off. So, how much purchasing power, the purchasing power that I have is probably different than the purchasing power that you have, because you're a college student, you're probably working part-time jobs, you're probably, using scholarship money and financial aid maybe to pay for school. And I own a business and work full-time at SFA. So my purchasing power, my ability to buy a home, my ability to buy a car, my ability to go on a vacation is just different. We're just in different places in our life. So consumers with high purchasing power have the ability to purchase higher price necessities. Duh, we all know that. You have more money, you can buy more expensive stuff. Great. So I kind of touched on economic factors. I'll let you read about inflation and recession. That's an important part of this mix and the way that the marketing environment works. And then you heard me mention earlier about technology and innovation. So if the technology changes and something, let's say I sell computers and I'm not paying attention to technology, guess what? My computer will be outdated very, very soon. So that won't be a great way for me to provide value in a product to my consumers because my technology isn't what they need at that time. You'll get this by doing basic research. So if you understand, and we'll do a whole chapter on research, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but research and understanding the way that your product fits into this larger picture is super important. And it's super important because you have to know where you fit in so that you know if you are, again, providing that value to people. If your technology is out of date, if your product is not the latest and greatest and not what people are seeing and wanting, then you don't have as much of an ability to provide that value. Of course, political and legal factors. So let's say there's some new regulation in a certain industry that comes out and you have to adapt to that. Well, government comes in and regulates something, or some law is enacted that affects the way you do business. Well, you have to understand what that looks like. Different examples of this are these different regulatory agencies that you can read about a little bit. They are there to protect certain industries. So the Food and Drug Administration, that's one you hear a lot about. If you sell vitamins and your product is now going to be regulated by the FDA, you have a whole new set of processes and a whole new set of information that you have to understand in order to sell your product. And so these are all, once again, external factors that make up this marketing environment. And then competition. We all understand that. If there's somebody that comes in and is doing what you're doing better, or somebody across the globe that's doing what you're doing better, and now they're entering a United States market, well, guess what? You have to understand how to adapt and to control. And so my goal here is really to tie back the SWOT analysis to these different factors. And I'm going to kind of reiterate that a little bit. The threat and opportunity section of your SWOT analysis is where some of these things come into play. So if you were to do a SWOT analysis of a company that's offering a product, you would need to look at how do these external factors affect my business. Those are how you figure out what your threats are and what your opportunities are. Maybe you see a competitor, you look and you go, okay, who are my competitors? Who could be one of my competitors that would help you stay relevant and valuable to your consumers because you're paying attention to what your competitors are offering. Opportunities. So let's say there's a growing ethnic market or an economic opportunity that takes place. Well, those are opportunities that your business could take advantage of. And so this environment that we talk about, if you think about the word environment and what it means all of these things kind of coexisting together. And so I hope that this kind of helps tie together what you're going to read in your text and what you'll learn about in your quiz to the marketing plan and the SWOT analysis. So thanks for listening in, guys.